Hello and welcome to a special sponsored edition of the Time on Screen podcast. My name is Zach Kazan. I'm the editorial director at Worn and Wound. Like I said, this is a sponsored edition of Time on Screen, sponsored by Hamilton for the Odyssey. Maybe you've heard of it. It's kind of a big movie. Hamilton has a new watch that they've released for the Odyssey. It does not appear in the Odyssey because the Odyssey takes place in a time before mechanical timekeeping. But Kyle Sarr, our head of partnerships, has an interview with Hamilton, with the Hamilton CEO, Francesca Ginocchio, which you'll hear at the back end of this podcast. But before we get to that, I'm going to talk about the Odyssey with my colleagues who are joining me today in person for an epic podcast about an epic movie. Let's go around the table, introduce ourselves. We got Kat Shoulders, media director, joining us. Kat, how's it going?
Great. I'm so happy to be back in our office. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've all been here together. So we figured we better record a bunch of podcasts and just memorialize this somehow.
Yeah.
So glad to have you here. We've also got Garrett Jones. Garrett, is this your first time on screen?
It is.
Podcast?
Yeah, I think it is the first time on screen.
You don't really watch movies.
No,
so
I don't. Hardly ever. Yeah.
But we've got you for the Odyssey because you've seen the Odyssey.
I have.
And
for once.
You've also seen some Christopher Nolan movies, which I discovered right before we turned the mics on. So you can participate in this conversation for real as a cinephile.
I'm glad to have checked these boxes at least once in my career here.
You've checked it off the list. And we've also got Ricardo Sime, the shop manager here at the Wind Up Watch Shop. Ricardo, welcome back to Time on Screen. You've been on at least once or twice. We talked about what was that Will Smith movie? We talked Focus. Yeah. Fantastic movie. Welcome back. I'm excited to talk to you about the Odyssey. Let's do a quick wrist check because this is still somewhat of a watch podcast. Ricardo, we'll start with you. What have you got on?
So I am wearing the Rivanera Piccolo white dial from Echo Nutra.
Yeah, I love that watch. That's such a good watch.
Yeah, it's my tank beater, I would even say.
A tank beater.
Yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Beater as in like it beats the tank, or beater as in it's like titanium and kind of like a beater?
Kind of both.
Okay.
I
like that.
Yeah.
Bold claims right off the rip.
Hey. Nice way to start a podcast.
Yeah.
Garrett, I'm looking at you. You're not wearing
Nobody needs to know this.
Listen, this is
top
authentic.
Secret.
We're being our authentic selves here. Did you just take your watch off because you've got a laptop in front of you and you're what's going on?
So I was wearing my Speedy
Okay.
on one of our leather straps. As pretty classic combination. It's being used for media purposes by our videographer Liam right now. I'll get it back in a bit, but it's with me in spirit.
All right, fair enough. I understand. We don't always have to be wearing a watch 24/7. It's fine. Kat, how about you? What have you got?
I'm honestly trying to find the reference number for this, but it's basically the Grand Seiko SBG M221, but it's with the Seiko.
It's the double sign Seiko Grand Seiko.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the same reference number, but anyway, we'll put it in the show notes.
It's the Cat Shoulders, the watch you've owned like
special.
4 times.
It's the Cat Shoulders special.
Yeah.
Is that the one that comes on the leather strap, but like you could get the bracelet for it?
Yeah, and I bought it. The owner had already bought the bracelet, so it was a nice addition.
Yeah, very good watch. I hope you
so good. I bought it many times.
Yeah, well, you've held on. This one you've had. How long has this one been in the collection?
Maybe like 6 months now or so.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's a veteran. It's been there.
by cat standards, yeah.
It's been there a while. It's almost as long as Odysseus was hanging out on that beach.
Nearly.
I'm wearing the Christopher Ward Loco Brooklynite limited edition that we made last year. We're in Brooklyn. I'm wearing the Brooklynite.
Yeah.
And it's a great watch. I wear it all the time, regardless of where I am. It's wonderful. All right, guys, the Odyssey. Quick, I want to get your impressions of the Odyssey, but before we do that, we got to set the scene a little bit. In case you haven't heard of the Odyssey, this is Christopher Nolan's follow-up to Oppenheimer, his big Oscar breakthrough. After years of being a hugely successful commercial filmmaker, he finally won a bunch of Oscars for Oppenheimer 3 years ago. His follow-up is the most epic story probably ever, the foundation of all literature, perhaps. Homer's The Odyssey. This movie had let's check the budget real quick. The budget is listed as $250 million. It's already made. We're like 2 weeks in. $683 million. This is like steamrolling towards $1.5 billion. It'll probably cross 700 million by the time this podcast airs.
Yeah.
Just a huge commercial accomplishment. It stars just a cast of like every major star, basically, is in this movie right now. Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, Lupita Nyong'o, Samantha Morton, Zendaya, Charlize Theron. Who am I missing? John Bernthal,
John Leguizamo.
Just like a lot of big stars in this movie.
Mia Goth. I was actually surprised.
Yes,
I didn't know she was in the cast list, so she was a really nice surprise when I watched the movie last night.
Yep, Benny Safdie. You see his face for like a split second.
Yeah.
He's in this movie. I mean, he's not a big star.
Yeah.
Mia Goth, not a big star. Some of these are just like well-known character actors. They've been, part of the Christopher Nolan. His like repertory company now for a few movies.
Yeah.
Let's just go around. What were your first impressions of the Odyssey? Ricardo, let's start with you. I know you're a big fan of this movie. What were your thoughts coming out of this?
I started the movie within the first 10 minutes and I was afraid. I was just like, okay, maybe I won't like this movie. And then by like the halfway point, I was like, okay, this is really good. And then by the end, that like Cole revenge kind of sequence. Well,
by the way, spoilers for the Odyssey. We're gonna be talking about all aspects of the Odyssey, including the end. This is, like I said, a 3,000-year-old story. So yeah, spoilers. But go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, by the end, I was hooked. I was just like, all the doubts I had, all the worries, everything about wondering whether Matt Damon would be good for this role. Like by the end, I was just like, this is just a good movie.
Yeah. Garrett, you're famously, as we've talked about on podcasts and in real life, not the biggest. You're not a cinephile. You're not the biggest movie fan. At least not the way that like I am and Zach Weiss. Like it's a hobby of ours. You're more selective about the movies you see.
Very.
You went and saw the Odyssey. You saw it. Did you see it at the Hamilton screening?
Yep.
I think you both did, right? You and Ricardo, or maybe not.
Nah.
Yeah, you went on your own. I went. It was me, Ilya, Kyle. And I believe there were some other people who were supposed to go that just didn't make that trip. But Hamilton did a big screening here in the city, which was great. So first time I've seen a movie in theaters in years, probably.
Wow, years. Okay. So that's like a thing. I mean, I feel like this movie, as it makes all this money, is probably going to be that movie for a lot of people. People who just don't go to the movies all the time. And this will be like the one movie they see this year.
No, that's probably true.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts?
I, kind of like Ricardo, I went into it and it was at the end of a workday. I was pretty tired. Knowing that it was a 3-hour movie, just kind of sat down. I was like, all right, there's a chance I might fall asleep in this. Just not knowing what was coming. And then 10, 15 minutes in, just absolutely wired, fully invested. And then, at the end of it, I remember looking down, checking my watch and being like, oh crap, it's been 2 hours and 45 minutes and this is almost over. And it was in it from beginning to end. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah. It's very well paced for a long movie. I think that sometimes a 3-hour movie can feel like a slog, and sometimes a 3-hour movie can feel like it's pretty brisk and and like this movie I think is like it's very well edited and very well paced. Kat, do you agree? So we saw it together last night. I saw it. This was my third time through the Odyssey. You hadn't seen it
Thanks
yet.
for going with me.
Well, of course. What were your thoughts? Do you agree that it was like a pretty fast 3 hours, or did you feel the length?
Yeah, yesterday was like we had a full film day. We were all out. I was a bit tired at the end of the day. I was a little bit worried about sitting through a 3-hour movie, but I was fully engaged the entire movie. And I'm not a big, Iliad or Odyssey fan in general in terms of the, the writings, but it was super good. It was entertaining. I liked it. It was a good movie.
Yeah. Shout out to Cobble Hill Cinemas, an older theater, great movie theater, but they don't have like the big recliner seats, so it's easier to stay awake, I think. It's a little less comfortable, which is actually, I think, what you want.
Torture seating
in a movie. Yeah, I mean, it's a perfectly adequate seat, but sometimes I sit in those like big plush recliners and I'm just like, it's nap time.
Yeah. No, I thought, the theater was a little smaller, but once you're engaged in the movie, you kind of forget about the screen and the room you're in. You're
Yeah.
just kind of really engaged, in the movie itself. But
For sure.
I thought it was really good, and we'll talk about this later. But I don't think it was top of the list on my Nolan.
Yeah,
favorites.
it's not for me either. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I think
same.
that we will talk about that, and I think that it's not it's not to say anything negative about it.
Yeah.
So it's not at the top of your
a
Nolan
great
list because
movie.
Christopher Nolan has all these movies that are so meaningful to so many of us, and one of them can be in the middle of the pack and still one of the best movies of the year, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, I like this movie a lot. I the first time I saw it in IMAX on opening night, with a buddy of mine, and I was impressed, but not I would say I was not blown away. And I think I've talked to some of you guys about this. That's pretty normal for me with a Christopher Nolan movie, because you sort of it takes a minute to get your bearings in a Christopher Nolan movie just because of the nonlinear storytelling, and it can kind of take you out of it a little bit. And the second time I saw it, I liked it a lot more. I thought it was just I was able to kind of relax a little bit, and just a lot more enjoyable. I didn't necessarily intend to see it a third time last night. I think 9 hours with this is probably enough. But listen, I'm doing the work. I want to be prepared for the podcast.
The most prepared.
I want to be. I want to be able to, to speak coherently off the cuff about the Odyssey. I wanted to ask you guys, about the structure of the movie is it's episodic because of the nature of the storytelling. The Odyssey is just a series of Odysseus goes here, Odysseus encounters the Cyclops, Odysseus encounters Circe, whoever, island to island, and something happens, and it's by nature episodic. So I just wanted to kind of get a read on what your guys' favorite big set pieces were, because it's really, the movie's a series of set pieces.
It spans so many years.
Yeah,
I think I do remember reading this in high school, being very confused about the timeline, and I think Christopher Nolan did a good job in laying out the timeline. It made a lot of sense to me in the movie.
Did you guys all read this? What's your maybe we should start there. What's your familiarity with the Odyssey text? Because I'll tell you, I wasn't super pumped for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey leading into this, just because I remember Greek mythology and the Odyssey and the Iliad being shoved down my throat when I was in 8th grade. It was not something that I cared about. Did you guys have any previous relationship to the Odyssey?
I mean, I can't remember the last time I read it. It was definitely high school. I'm more familiar actually with all the different remakes and versions they've made
There's
of it.
so many remakes. And everything is everything is the Odyssey.
Yeah.
If you kind of
There was the TV version, the TV series. I mean, though not the same story, you have those points in Troy, the movie. There was another movie with what's our guy? The name escapes me, but there's so many different versions of this that I'm more familiar with on film than the actual epic story.
It's never been adapted in full as a film, but little bits and pieces of it have appeared over and over again in movies and in popular culture. It's been parodied so many. The Simpsons have done multiple parodies of the Odyssey. The Coen brothers did "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," which is a retelling of the Odyssey set in, what was it, turn of the century America, in the South. It's really it's a rich text for interpretation. Garrett, how about you? What's your level of Odyssey engagement prior to the Nolan film?
I went in blind here. We never had to read it through school. Had different sections on Greek mythology, so I kind of understood as I'm watching it, I could kind of piece together where things were and who characters are supposed to be and kind of what the legends were around them. But it never really sat down and read through the 3,000-year-old text, whole 9 yards. So maybe at some point I'll force myself to go and do that. But it was kind of nice to just go in blind and really not know what was coming in a lot of ways and just experience it firsthand.
Did you have a favorite set piece? Thinking back, what was the...
probably like I really, really liked the way they did the siren.
Yeah.
That kind of episode there, I guess is a good way to put it. I just remember sitting in the theater. I was next to Troy Barmore, another local watch photographer up here in New York. And like, we weren't in IMAX, but it was just like almost painfully loud through a lot of the movie. And then it was just silence to the point where I was like, oh crap, did I just go deaf? And then like you're watching it and it like, just that segment right there, kind of the way that everything was shot, the way it was lit, the way the characters were, just like that's the one of two scenes that just sticks with me from the entire movie.
Yeah, I like that siren sequence a lot. That's one of those things that's been, you know, like even if you haven't read the Odyssey, you kind of like know the sirens story. It's just like kind of seeped into the culture. So I was like very curious how they would do that going into the movie. And it's just this like very brief, it's like 3 minutes probably total screen time that you see, that you get the sirens. And it's so cool that they, what they did with the audio, because obviously it's like the story of the sirens is all about like the song of the sirens and like what are you going to actually hear, and of course you don't hear anything, which is, you know, fitting and appropriate. And I loved I mean, Matt Damon's performance in that sequence is great, where he's just like screaming tied to the mast of the ship, and then the way he like recalls, you know, what he heard. I thought it was like very, very well done, and like one of the more poignant moments in the film, I think. Yeah. Kat, how about you? Was there a sequence that like really stood out?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the large armored
giants.
Knights, you know, in the forest, and then like the trees were moving. It was very like disorienting. I thought like that was really cool. And yeah, I think that as far as like all of the different sort of villains they encounter in their journey, that one was like pretty scary to me. These massive giants coming after them. So I thought that was kind of a standout for me. And then also the massive storm from like Poseidon and the lightning, and you're only seeing like bits and pieces, and it's very disorienting, and the ship gets broken in half and he gets separated. That was like pretty exciting. Like my heart was kind of like definitely racing during that moment.
Yeah,
those also because just like the sea is very scary to me, and like that's like my literal nightmare. So that stood out. Yeah,
the I mean, all of those. All the practical effects, like when he's out at sea, like they actually like built the ships and like destroyed the ships, and like that's like incredible filmmaking. Just knowing that Nolan did that with like minimal, if any, CGI. Ricardo, how about you? What was the thing that like really the most memorable like set piece in your mind?
That choice between the whirlpool and the rocks. I like one how, because before that he kind of foreshadows that he needs to make that choice, and I like how he dealt with it. Like, I'm not gonna tell them. I'm just gonna push them towards something that they would all be like, oh, no way. And in their minds, they're thinking, okay, we're the ones making this decision, but really he's the one making the decision
especially
for them.
Especially at that point in the movie, after he's led them sort of astray, like time and time and time again, he knew that they would do the opposite of what he said.
So the way they do that, and then they kind of get past the whirlpool, and even though you know what was told to him, there's still a moment there where you're like, oh, they're safe. There's like a nice little pause there where you feel comfortable, and then just out of nowhere, just snatch.
What is that thing? A blob of what?
It's a sea monster.
Okay, it's a sea monster. Okay.
Yeah, it's like Scylla Charybdis, the whirlpool and the sea monster, and like that's a thing that like that's one of that is like, you know, maybe besides the Cyclops, the most like fantastical element of the story. It's literally a sea monster and a whirlpool with like a sentient whirlpool that like sucks in you know, travelers, and the way he staged that I thought was very good. And I also was like surprised when Scylla, I think Scylla's the sea monster, and Charybdis is the whirlpool, like snatches the guy. Like it, like even though you know it's coming because you get the you know, the prophecy from Tiresias and the scene before, it's like it is one of those like you know, kind of like jump scare like movie moments that like can still be very effective. I can't believe no one said the sacking of Troy and the horse. They built an actual Trojan horse and stuffed a bunch of guys in it, and then moved it into, you know, this like city set that they built. I thought that was just like incredibly impressive. And the you know, you see the sacking of Troy twice. You see it during Menelaus tells the story of the sacking of Troy to Telemachus, Odysseus' son. Yeah. And so you see it from his perspective, which is all about kind of like, you know, like the trick and like getting into the city and sort of like the glory of it. Yeah. And then towards the end of the movie, what I thought is like by far the most effective sequence in the movie, Odysseus posing as a beggar retells it from his side to Penelope. Yeah. And you see that like the movie kind of becomes about like PTSD for a minute, and like you see like, you know, like the horror of it, and it really kind of like drives like the thematic points of the movie home. And it's also just like incredibly bracing filmmaking. It's like it's this like monumentally staged like battle sequence with like fire and buildings being destroyed and hand-to-hand combat. It's just like really, really great.
It's like it's another one of those scenes where even though you know exactly what's going to happen, like Nolan just paces it perfectly to the point where you're still there. Are they about to get this door open in time? Because he doesn't just immediately open the door. There's a little like, okay, we're about to, they're coming, and like who's gonna, and even though you know, it's still perfectly paced.
Yeah, there's a lot of tension there. I think that's also a moment where the score is doing a lot of work, and then the door opens and you see like Agamemnon framed there like perfectly. It's a really, really cool like visual moment.
Ludwig doesn't miss. He's just
just incredible. I mean, the way it's like when you think about like the music in these types of movies, like Sword and Sandal, like epic movies, like historically it's like a very different type of music. It's like very traditional, orchestral, and like I love, you know, like sort of like the modern take. And not just with the music, but with the language too. What did you guys think of Nolan's choice to let people kind of speak in their own accents and use modern language in this movie? Something that people were worried about going in.
Yeah, it bothered me for like the first half hour, and then I kind of forgot about it. Personally.
I think it was a great choice. It's one of those things where like we, in today's times, how often are we like learning these stories in their original text? Like they're being told to us in English or wherever you're from. So from our perspective, we're listening to this story in the language that we are currently using. So I think it was just a great choice.
Yeah. I agree. I think it kind of grounds the movie and makes it feel contemporary. I think that like Nolan would probably, you know, be the first to admit that like a lot of the themes he's dealing with are like very applicable to like today's world. You know, it is a movie about war and the effects of war, and that is something that we are certainly you know, like always grappling with in 2026. And the you know, the characters speaking in a familiar you know, vernacular, I think like helps drive that point home.
I think like it to me, it part of it gets a little bit lost. Like when they're saying like mom and dad, and I don't know, it feels a little too modern to me in some sense.
Well, you let me know if you think that after you see it for the third time.
Okay. I don't think like it doesn't. I mean, it didn't like affect my opinion of the movie. I still think the movie's like really great, but I do think that there could have been like a little bit more like of a formality in some of the like not the accents per se, but just the language, you know, that they use.
I think there are moments like that. Like sometimes Anne Hathaway's Penelope kind of slips into like a more sort of like classical way of speaking. But yeah, I think that's a point that a lot of people have made, that they find it distracting. But what about you, Garrett? What did you make of that choice?
It's one of those things that it doesn't bother me at all. I kind of go into it like, you know, there's a point that, especially not having backstory on this, like I wanted to understand everything that was going on. And at the same point of view, like you kind of have to look at it like there will be a lot of people that see this, to your point, Zach, that like have not seen movies or are not super familiar with, you know, kind of the whole story. So to have it presented in a way that is easily understandable, you know, regardless of whatever your familiarity is, like that's the best way to come at it. And that, I think that's why it's become so popular in such a short amount of time, just because people are able to like resonate right off the rip and be like, oh, this is this is a story that's very old but very applicable, and human nature is cyclical, and all these thematics that we see time and time again, just done in an easily understandable way.
Yeah. Yep. We talked about the cast, and it's just like a very impressive cast of like very big movie stars. What were your favorite performances in the movie, Garrett? Who really jumped out at you?
Oh, see, this is probably the hardest question for me to answer because I don't remember people's names, the actual names and character names.
Well, I've got the
I'm looking at it,
so we can figure it out together.
I'm looking at it as well. I mean, it's one of those things that, like, not having reference for a lot of characters and their history, I think really kind of helps me here. I did like the way that Damon was, and just kind of how he positions himself throughout the story, and the way, especially that siren sequence, that's really kind of the one that resonates for me the most.
Yeah.
And then when they're on one of the islands and they go into the hut and all of the men are eating, and
Cersei.
Thank you, Cersei. And she starts transforming them into pigs.
Yeah.
Would like literally made me want to crawl out of my skin. Like that sequence there, the performance of her, and of course the animatronics they were using was just like absolutely top notch. Like that was killer in my opinion.
Yeah, Samantha Morton as Cersei I think is like definitely a standout performance. She's great. There's a great English I believe she's English. I don't want to make that. We'll double check that. I'll double check that. But yeah, no, she's fantastic. And that was another scene going in that like I think I was familiar with. I know the story of Cersei, and she turns men into animals, and I was curious how Nolan would handle that given his proclivity towards practical effects. And he did it with models and just a lot of kind of like old school sort of like gross out practical effects. It really turns into a horror movie for a minute.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, I really like that sequence a lot. Kat, how about you? Favorite performance in the movie?
Yeah, favorite. I mean, I think Matt Damon did great. I think he's a great sort of hero of this story, and I think perfect in that he's not so perfect in a way. Yeah. I think. Obviously, Nolan has worked with a lot of huge leading men in a lot of his movies, Leonardo DiCaprio, Cillian Murphy, Matthew McConaughey. But like those guys all have like a pretty boy factor to them, where I feel like Matt Damon has always remained kind of like the normal guy. He's like kind of the guy next door. And I think that allowed him to be sort of this battered and weathered hero of this story, and he's like, I don't know, like his looks didn't distract from the story itself, which I think like had he gone with someone else big in Hollywood right now, I don't even know who else like was potentially up for this part or could have played it as well as like Matt Damon could have. As he's getting older and older, I felt it was very real, it was very realistic. And
I mean, think about like other Nolan leading men that like could Christian Bale have done this, or
Christian Bale actually I feel like could.
I felt like Christian would have overdone it. I think like
it would have been a very different kind of movie.
I think what got us is no one going in really knew what approach Nolan would have with this movie. So like your mind kind of thinks of, okay, you want this kind of warrior epic looking type of person. But by the time you're done with the movie, you're basically like, hey, this is Matt Damon from Good Will Hunting. This is the cocky guy in the beginning and the guy who gets humbled by the end. Yeah. And like, he's just perfect for that.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. Like the fact that we're like familiar with the Matt Damon persona is helpful, like in this movie for sure. Yeah. And he leans into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he did great. And I thought also Anne Hathaway, I thought her performance was really strong. Robert Pattinson, like I despised him throughout the whole movie. So, you know, even though he's not a favorite character, I think like he did an awesome job. And I thought it was like honestly standout performances from almost everybody on this cast, you know.
Pattinson probably gets my vote. Like he's just the most fun. Like he gets kind of like the, you know, he's the villain, like essentially, and as one of the suitors. Antinous, I believe, is the name of the character, and he just gets like a lot of like meaty lines, and gets to go one-on-one with both Anne Hathaway and Matt Damon at times, and it's just like really good at playing a snake.
The spears.
Yeah.
The swords.
The shields. Get these beggars out of here.
Yeah.
He's great. I thought that I also I appreciated Anne Hathaway's performance a little bit more on a rewatch. I thought, she like doesn't have a lot to do, but she's always great when she's on screen, and it's really hard to imagine. I mean, it's easy to imagine, I think, Christian Bale, for example, or Cillian Murphy, or even like Leonardo DiCaprio, playing Odysseus. But like, I don't think any of them give you what Damon does, which is this sort of like everyman quality.
Yeah, I feel like the story of Odysseus is like he makes a lot of stupid decisions.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's kind of not the hero, honestly.
No.
He's just like, all of this stuff has happened to him, but no one looks up to him. Like, besides his son, probably. And I think, I don't know, he encapsulated that really, really well. And I think the only thing I didn't enjoy, and I know this is already a very long movie, I wish they would have included, I didn't really buy the Penelope and Odysseus storyline. Like, I didn't feel like their connection was like that strong, and maybe that was on purpose, but I feel like maybe we could have used a few more little flashbacks to their life together, maybe even like with their small son, to just create the stronger bond that she clearly had for him. Obviously, waiting all these years, we just get a very small snippet of that, and it's just like, I don't know, I just couldn't get totally bought into their marriage and their relationship.
They basically get one scene together pre-Odyssey, pre-Odysseus going off to war, where they're like in bed together, kind of like discussing. That's like an exposition scene. Like they're explaining like Agamemnon's war and why he has to leave.
Yeah.
And, so you get that scene. And there's a really great sequence where Odysseus is like doing his like trick with the bow and the arrow and like in like a big feast or whatever, and there's just like great like kind of like acting without words moment from Anne Hathaway, where like Odysseus does a thing and she like smiles and blushes, and like that like gives you a lot, I think, about like, you tell in that moment like, oh, she's like really in love with this man. But I agree. I think that there could have been like another scene or two that sort of like sketched out that relationship a little bit more. You really don't get a lot of those two together. Also, I just like them together. I think it would be nice to like just see more.
Yeah, I think it just would have solidified like their relationship a little bit more, and why she waited so long to, basically pick a suitor, because clearly she loved him a lot, and obviously he loved hers too, and I just felt like, but then thinking about the movie, I'm like, well, what else do you take out to fit that in? I don't know. There's probably a couple scenes that could be shortened, I think, in some sort of way.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that doesn't like hang together. Like we were talking last night, Kat. I think there's this like kind of subplot where Antinous's guys are going after Telemachus, like kind of towards the end, which I feel like just like does not work. Like it's sort of it's just not as exciting or interesting. It kind of takes you out of the main story. It like kind of breaks up the pacing in a way. Like I think you can lose that, or like get that with like couple lines of dialogue or something, and there's other things that like don't really that could be cut, or just make it 4 hours. Why not?
I mean, you went from like 100 hours of IMAX down to 3 for the final showing. I'm sure you could find a way to make that last hour good, or just split it and have 2 hours.
I don't know. It becomes a logistical question at some point, because you can only run a 3-hour movie so many times a day, and a 4-hour movie even fewer times a day. Although it's running around the clock here in New York. So, what did you guys think of so one of the big departures from like the original text to the movie is the way that the Greek gods are used. So in the epic poem, the gods are main characters, and they like are interacting with the human characters on a regular basis. In this movie, we have Zendaya as Athena, and we have many references to the gods and what they do, but we don't actually like see a god besides Zendaya as Athena. And by the end of the movie, we're questioning like, is that actually Athena? I think it's like left ambiguous.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I was very confused by that.
Yeah,
when they showed her, getting her head cut off, I was like, I don't know. I didn't know if she was Athena or if it was his depiction of what Athena would be. I don't know. I was like, yeah.
Let's get to that. Let's put a pin in that.
Okay.
We can talk about that specifically. But I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on like, could this movie have used more gods? Like, did you want to see Zeus? Like, did you want to see like a personification of Poseidon, or were you satisfied with the way?
I like the way they did it. I think it. I think it's better. Like sometimes the unshown or the unsaid is better. And for instance, like when Poseidon was sort of attacking them in the water in the storm, like that's enough for me. You don't need to see Poseidon, necessarily.
Yeah. I think there's a risk it becomes very goofy if you have like a bunch of like god
like how do you depict
characters.
Zeus? With a lightning bolt in his hand, like that's kind of
Yeah.
I
mean, I think it takes it really from like the way it's done is very much a like man goes out, man battles nature, deals with his own consequences, and manages to hold on to his life and come back. In really a shell of what he once was. If you had depicted all of the different gods. At this point, it really just becomes Percy Jackson. And then, we've seen those movies. Those are done on their own. But this puts it in a different level, its own category. I think it was done really, really well. Yeah.
How about you, Ricardo? What are your thoughts on the portrayal of gods in the movie? I
like the fact that they didn't use gods that much. It really just focuses on what the main lesson of the whole movie is.
Yeah.
Which is the whole idea of Zeus's law.
Yep.
And how... for so long, people have looked at the story of Troy and Odysseus as, they did this amazing thing, but like I just really like the way Nolan just kind of flips it on his head. But like, no,
they like broke humanity,
and they were and are the men from the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was very. I thought the way that Nolan used like the idea of gods in this movie was very very well done. That was one of the things I was like concerned about when this movie was announced. Is like, are we gonna have like who's gonna play Zeus? Like what? Like how do you even cast for that? Like how do you do that? How does Christopher Nolan, who is so wrapped up in the idea of practical effects, how do you make a movie like that? So I thought it was a really good choice. And with respect to Athena and the way that she's portrayed, I thought. I love that it's ambiguous. I love that it's essentially Odysseus talking to a, like a personification of this god that like other characters can't see. Like there's a scene where he's talking to Zendaya as Athena, and then Charlize Theron as Calypso says like, were you talking to Athena, again, or something like that? And it's clear that like other characters can't see her. But the emotional, like, kind of like high point at the end of the movie, this big, like dramatic kind of reveal during the sacking of Troy is you see a character, Zendaya, playing a priestess in Troy who's been taken prisoner, is about to be beheaded, and you realize, so like this is the character, this is the person from Matt Damon's life who he's like grafted Athena onto. That's how I interpreted it. Some people are saying that it's it was never really meant to be Athena. It was it's a representation of his guilt, or maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know. What do you guys think? How do you feel about that?
I thought she, in the scene in Troy, she's not Athena, but like, if you're a god and you really want to teach someone a lesson about the terrible thing they just did, you take on the personification of the thing that really sticks in their mind.
And that's a thing that they plant the seeds of, like, in the movie, and then that's Zeus's law, is that, any person could be like a god in disguise. Yeah. Garrett, what do you think of that moment where you see the Zendaya like kind of like recast as that priestess in Troy?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things, like, it was at almost the perfect spot in the movie, because like at that point you're kind of like, at least I was really piecing everything together that I had seen, and then that hits and you're just like, this all gets put right back into perspective as like no one else can see her, and really kind of, as you mentioned, like tiptoes that line of like, is it PTSD, is it actually Athena? You know, is it a personification? Is it some mix of all three? But just done, you know, super, super well. And the way that they did the sequence of like she's about to lose her head and then the statue gets beheaded, just like really ties it all together that like you can't tell for certain who or what she is, but it just leaves like enough ambiguity that you piece it together, and it's just more powerful that way.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's a real. It's. I mean, that's like the. I think that's one of the things that makes this movie special is that it's like that's like the act of adaptation. Like Nolan is, you know, riffing on the original text. Like obviously that's not in the original text. It's like pure Nolan, and it serves his just a way that, you know, his storytelling is kind of like on display.
Yeah. And that actually reminds me of one of my favorite scenes, now that I think about it, is when he's sitting there and he's talking to Penelope and the screen is between them and she's right there and he's kind of confessing his sins. And then she as the personification, it's sad because like she's like, okay, you finally get it.
Yeah.
Like you finally understand what we were trying to explain to you and what you've done. And like the whole joining of the hands and like almost like asking God for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And
or asking that the real woman for forgiveness. Like, and in that moment, like you're thinking like it's equally meaningful, but in different ways. If Zendaya's character is Athena, or if it is just like, you know, a woman who was, you know, murdered in the like sacking of Troy. Like it has a different meaning, but it's like it's equally kind of like powerful, I think.
I'll just say what I took away from this movie was that Odysseus should have just listened to his wife from the beginning. Because you know what? I know they were worried about like Agamemnon coming after Ithaca. Well, who cares? All the people in there are crap. You would have taken like the good people on the boat with you and like left, and who cares about Ithaca anymore? Like we find out like half these people are, you know, they're suitors and they're like, I don't know, slimy people. So he did it for nothing, truly. Like, it was dumb.
You know? He's got a fun story to tell, you know?
Yeah.
Did it for the plot.
Also, okay,
the original do it for the plot.
Yeah. I did forget about one scene that I wanted to shout out.
Yeah.
I thought was so sweet. Was like him coming back and the dog waiting for him to like pass.
I mean,
was so sweet
or traumatic. Like it's really
traumatic,
very sad.
Yeah. Also, like that dog lived a long time, but like
that's
I feel like time is like a little different here. Also, Christopher Nolan, I just have to. He used a hound dog as a puppy, and then the dog was like a terrier. This is just like.
Yeah.
Could he not have found like the same type of dog to use as a puppy, and then as like it was like a completely different breed? So like. Yeah, that was a call out for me that I just like could not put away in the back of my head.
Lots of people have big issues with the way dogs are used in this film. There is a dog that gets thrown off a cliff in this movie.
Yeah, a few, sadly.
But you know, ancient Greece, cutthroat.
Yeah.
Which I can't lie, I kind of find crazy because, like, isn't the whole story of Sparta like they just toss the children that they don't want off a cliff?
That sounds about right.
Probably.
And keep the ones that they feel are fit enough to. It's and then doing that with dogs, but yeah,
maybe they were onto something, is what you're saying. That's the implication here. Before we go to Kyle's conversation with Francesca from Hamilton, I just wanted to kind of get your guys' read on where this movie ranks in your personal kind of like Nolan, you know, like Nolan rankings. You don't have to give your Nolan rankings, but you know, is this like top tier Nolan? Is it mid tier Nolan? Garrett, we'll start with you. You've seen most of Christopher Nolan. You've seen all the Batman movies. You've seen his big like original, you know, movies, Inception, Interstellar. You missed a few, but where does this rank for you in terms of his filmography?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely more up there on the list. You know, I'll just say that like I enjoyed the Batman trilogy better. I like the storyline of Interstellar probably the most out of all of Nolan's. And then this would kind of slot right there into that, you know, I'll call it third place, even though it's technically really not. But I think the big thing for me is like this just absolutely decimates Oppenheimer.
Oh man!
And I'll catch flack for that, and that's fine. But I like this one so much more than. And let me preface that I've seen Oppenheimer once. I watched it on an airplane going to San Francisco, so it was the smallest screen. I had a kid behind me that was like throwing a fit half the time, so I probably need to give it a rewatch. But as it sits right now, this one's pretty hot.
You need to watch it on
fighting words.
Very much fighting words.
I think you need to watch it on like a smart fridge or something. That might be a better way to watch.
So I need to watch it as Nolan intended?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's an opinion. Kat, how about you? Where does
this is honestly like one of my least favorite Nolan movies, I'll say. I thought it was really great. It was entertaining. And if you can see it in theaters, like, please go. But in terms of his catalog, this is like in probably the bottom 3 for me.
Okay, so what movies would you? So what ranks below it?
I think maybe one of the Batmans, maybe the third Batman, Dark Knight movies is down there. It wasn't really a favorite of mine. And maybe like I'm not a huge Prestige fan. Like that's probably like pretty low on the list.
What about Insomnia? Where does this rank with?
Insomnia is like mid tier. That's in the middle.
Okay,
upper middle for me.
This is below Insomnia.
This is below Insomnia for me.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
I mean, I respect your take. That is a contrarian take at this point, though.
And again, I think it's a really great movie, and it's not saying it's a bad movie. It's just I think he makes phenomenal films. But I also feel like, and we talked about this like on our walk back last night. He's just gotten to this point where he's just like, there's this huge cast list. He's putting every star in it. I'm ready for him to do an original story, maybe a smaller cast list. I really liked movies like Interstellar. There's only like a few really key players in those movies. And I feel like coming out of Oppenheimer, this felt very similar, like just massive cast, as many people as you can fit in this movie for the star power. And it's getting a little old for me. I'm ready for something new from him. But I think Oppenheimer is phenomenal. That one's like definitely top tier. Yeah.
The thing with Nolan and his casts and the budget is like he's sort of like he's kind of trapped into using big stars, because if he's going to do these big ambitious movies, which just seems is like his thing, like he wants to always like top himself, and studios give him a lot of money, they're going to insist that he cast like the biggest stars because they have to sell the movies on the stars.
Sure. And I get that to a certain extent. I just think that there's the like reusing the same people over and over. Yeah. It's kind of becoming like, I don't know, a little cliche, I guess, for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like it when other directors, like Wes Anderson does that?
Occasionally, and like I don't know, I go to like what Adam Sandler does. You see the same. It's just like it doesn't always work for me. Like a few, and I say this as someone that also likes Mike Flanagan, and he does that in a way that I like, but also it can sometimes take you away from the story where you're just like, oh yeah, what movie was that guy? Was he in Interstellar or Inception? Like, you're just kind of in the back of your mind thinking about that. Yeah, it takes you away from the story a little bit.
Yep.
Versus seeing just all new people. I
mean, I think that's a risk whenever you use a big star. Like big stars carry baggage, and it's it's to their Some can like disappear into a role and some can't. Like I am always aware that I'm watching Brad Pitt in a Brad Pitt movie. Like he cannot disappear. Leonardo DiCaprio cannot disappear. Yeah. And sometimes that's okay. Like it's okay that Brad Pitt couldn't disappear into his character in F1, for example, because the character itself is all about like star power. But sometimes it can be distracting.
I'm not so upset about him using megastars. It's that I feel like he's reusing them like so many times. It would be nice to see some different faces and different people. Yeah, at this point. Yeah.
Ricardo, how about you? Where does this rank in the Nolan universe for you?
It is outside the top 5.
Okay.
And it's funny because this is how like things kind of started with us. You had posted something in terms of your ranking, and
do you have mine pulled up there?
I do.
Remind me of what I said.
Let's see if it's changed since this third viewing. Your top 5 was Oppenheimer, Interstellar, Dark Knight, Inception, and Dunkirk.
Okay.
My top 5 were Interstellar, Oppenheimer, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, and Dunkirk.
Okay. And I think both of our lists are very respectable, and I stand by my rankings. Yeah. Do you still feel the same way?
I do.
A few weeks later,
I do. You know what it is? The Odyssey is kind of the movie you can tell after you watch all his other movies, after watching the Odyssey, is the movie he's kind of been working towards.
Yeah.
There's so many familiar like plot lines and familiar pieces of storytelling that you kind of find in all the different movies that he's doing that are in this movie. And it's one of those movies like you're just like, oh, if I like Christopher Nolan, I've got to watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like it feels, well, at least to me, like so many of the other movies he's done are just better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like Interstellar will, until something really, really good comes out, is easily my top greatest movie of all time. And there's like, it's a personal movie to me. The story of a father and their daughter and their child. So for me, it holds a special place, but I know a lot of people who feel the same way, who aren't parents, who still feel like that movie just has like a lot to it. And it's really, that's one of those movies where you kind of forget the big names in the movie during the movie because they kind of play their roles so well. Like, yes, it's Matthew McConaughey, but he just plays the role to a point where you're not thinking big star Matthew McConaughey. You're just thinking really good actor playing the role.
I think one thing that hurt this movie for me is like there was no emotional connection for me to anybody. And like his other films like have always moved me on an emotional level, even like The Dark Knight, like where you're like the hairs on your arm are standing up by the end of the movie. Like it's so powerful. And this just like, I don't know, it just lacked that for me.
Yeah.
I was moved by like the point he's making.
Yeah.
Like like I said, that the way I was very moved by like the retelling of the sacking of Troy from Odysseus' perspective at the end of the movie. Like I think that is like extremely effective storytelling. I was emotionally moved by that. But I agree that like the characters themselves are a little hard to identify with, but I like the thematic work that Nolan is doing in the Odyssey. And that like he's injecting some kind of like commentary about like modern war and the way we think about that into this story. I thought was like I thought it was effective and moving, and I enjoyed that. But I stand by those rankings. Oppenheimer is still number one for me. Like that movie I think is just like incredibly effective. Kind of like to that point in his career was like the summation of like all the things he was interested in and all the filmmaking techniques that he was like kind of like working towards and building. It's like a real triumph of editing. I think in particular the performances are all great. And to your point, Ricardo, like I think there's a lot of Oppenheimer in the Odyssey. Like there's a direct correlation between like the bomb and the horse. I think it right
made
there.
me appreciate, like before watching Odyssey, Oppenheimer was maybe 4 or 5 on my list. And then after watching the Odyssey and then rewatching Oppenheimer, it like jumped up to number 2.
Yeah.
It's just a really good movie that takes that character and that person that we all know about and really goes through like everything that they
you see these people at like top of their game. They're really cocky. They make these bad decisions, and then there's like sort of they have this immense amount of guilt by the end of the movie of their all the decisions they've made along the way. So they're very similar in some ways, but I still lack that emotional connection to Damon's character the way I did for Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Well, listen. We love Oppie, we love a physicist, he's great.
Oh, I felt like Oppenheimer really, really wore the guilt well. I didn't feel the same with the Odysseus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's in the text of the Odyssey because like he is a cocky character. Like that is what defines him as his hubris. And so that is a big difference between the way like that character just like exists in Homer's Odyssey versus like Oppenheimer as a real person.
That na scene like with the Cyclops, just like you're out of there, just run. Like no, I'm gonna turn around and just shoot him in the eye.
That's also that's like that's from the text. It's, and it's what sets off everything. It angers Poseidon. It sets him off on that's like right there and in Homer. You can't escape this 3,000-year-old tale. My goodness. Well, we have like wildly different opinions on this movie, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Like that means it's like a really valuable movie to talk about. I'm glad we were able to do that on Time on Screen. Thank you to Hamilton for sponsoring this episode. Kat, Garrett, Ricardo, it's great to chat with you. Thanks everyone for listening. And the next voice you hear will be our pal Kyle Snar talking with Francesca from Hamilton about the new watch made for the release of the Odyssey. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name is Kyle Snar, Head of Partnerships here at Worn and Wound. For this special segment, we are joined by Hamilton CEO Francesca Giannocchio to discuss the brand and one of its most defining strengths, its ongoing involvement in the art of cinematic storytelling. We are here to talk about her first months leading Hamilton, the enduring role that Hollywood has played in shaping the brand's identity, and its long-standing creative partnership with acclaimed director Christopher Nolan. The development of Hamilton's latest timepiece inspired by Nolan's highly anticipated film, The Odyssey, will also be something we touch on. So thank you so much, Francesca, for joining us. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here and to be able to exchange about these fantastic topics you were mentioning. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was so nice to meet you last year in October when you first became the CEO and took over that role. What has surprised you the most about Hamilton since stepping into this position?
Yeah. Well, it's true. It has been now more than 10 months that I am in this new role. And this journey with this brand, it's fantastic. What I'm enjoying is the fact that the storytelling of the brand, it's really connecting more and more passionate people. And when we met, it was the Call of Duty launch at the moment. And since there, we had so many special and nice projects with gaming and with movies that the hype on the brand has been fantastic.
I agree.
And, yeah. So
I agree.
It's fantastic. And the people around the brand, it's just really getting enthusiastic on all the launches. I was this morning visiting some clients. They were like, for example, you were mentioning the Odyssey piece. It's already pre-sold everywhere. It's like great. It's really a fantastic momentum, and the storytelling is great.
I agree. Thank you for sharing that. I think about Hamilton, and I think about a very remarkable history that stretches from Lancaster, Pennsylvania to Switzerland today. How do you balance honoring the past and the heritage while continuing to evolve the brand forward?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that we are proud of our American roots, and we keep on working on this because it's really what the people is searching on us. Then we were able to add the Swissness of the movement, which is an added value. And this combination is the perfect combination, I would say. So this is, I think, great. In terms to honor our American heritage, I think we have two main projects. One is the fantastic Lancaster story. I have to say, I was so lucky when I started. The Lancaster store has already been opened to honor our heritage in Lancaster. And now this is getting big and big. We did an event in May to launch our 36 millimeter America 250 edition. It was great. We brought there journalists from all over the world, and some of them that they have been invited to all the trips in all the fantastic places. They told me it's the greatest experience we could have. It's so authentic, so fantastic. And then we had an event with the end consumer, and there were like people taking vacation from work or not going to school to attend the event to honor our heritage. So this is in Lancaster. It's something we will keep talking about this all over the world. It's really a fantastic storytelling. It's the heart of the US and it's really matching us. And then it's the product development. And this year was the perfect example. This 36 millimeter, it's a re-edition of a piece of the 70s done for a specific part of the army. It was done, but with a modern touch, with some adjustment, some technical features, and the consumers, the passionate, respond such in a fantastic way that we have to keep going on this. And we are already, we have other projects for the second semester on this path. So this is the second way, I would say.
Yeah, I think you guys always do a wonderful job of having watches in collections that appeal to the broader watch buying audience while also creating watches that are really appealing to both collectors and enthusiasts. And I think the one that you mentioned is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Hamilton's relationship with cinema goes back decades and decades. Today, it feels like an authentic part of the brand's DNA rather than simply product placement. How do you define the role that film plays in the Hamilton identity?
Well, first of all, I think the credibility of the brand in the movie industry is there because it's happening since 1937. So it's historical. It's something that now, and also with our Behind the Camera awards, we have now really a big credibility with all the people that is working in the movie industries. So this is very, very important. And then the way we work makes the total different. And also this forever, and we want to keep the same approach. So we don't do product placement, but we work with the people, with the directors, with the stylist, really to find all the perfect piece in our vintage collection to fit the character. If we think about Oppenheimer, for example, this was the fantastic example. Or we do a watch prop for the movie, which is, let's think about our fantastic Murph. This was the perfect example. And we provide a current collection piece that is special and specific for the film, like it happened now for Disclosure Day of Steven Spielberg. So we have these three ways of working, which is, I think, kind of unique. It's consistent. And so it's really working well. It's organic. It's really nice.
Amazing. Yeah, you touched on a few of Christopher Nolan's films. Obviously, he's famous for being one of the most meticulous filmmakers on the planet. When you're developing a watch with him for one of his films, what does that creative process look like? And can you talk a little bit about, which of the, he's done a few different ways of working with you. What stands out to you about that process?
Yeah. Well, first of all, something that it's very interesting and important is the fact that he mentioned also in the materials he's doing for us how important time is in all his movies. And this is a first very important connection because we are like the specialist of time and it's something so important for him. Then it's a matter of doing the perfect piece for the character. Let's think about the Murph. That was not even a watch for the consumer at the beginning. It was a prop watch. And now let's think about the Odyssey. All the details, even if it's true, there was not a watch in the time, but the way that we wanted to do time, it was so important in this storytelling that it's a tribute with all the details we have in the materials we use, in the hands of the watch, in the box. So it's really a matter of caring about time, caring about the characters and the story, and then caring about the details. And this, I have to say that Hamilton, we think we are we care about details.
You make a really good point that how critical time is as themes in his movies. And so it makes perfect sense that one of his key collaborators would be Hamilton, someone who, like you said, cares so deeply about time. For collectors who may not have seen the Odyssey yet, what details of that watch are you excited for them to discover?
Yeah. Well, we know that the watch is not in the movie, but it has many, many particular things. Like we have, for example, the hands that are like inspired by the weapons of that period. We have a fantastic strap, which it's linked to the accessories they were using at that time. But then there is a special thing that we could do that I think it's fantastic. We have this special box with the pin. And this pin is in the movie and actually is the pin that Penelope is giving to Ulisse when he's like leaving for his trip. And this is the perfect, I think, connection, because at the end, it's a matter of time if we think about the story. And I think the pin and then all the details of the watch are like inspiring all our passionate people. And it's happening because I can tell you that when we announced the piece, and we had so many requests.
Yeah, it's obviously the movie's having an enormous moment in our culture. So you can just imagine when you have this amount of detail going into a product, there's going to be some great interest in it.
Yes, and if I can add something for me, something that is fantastic is that this movie, and I think also with our small project, we can connect to many young people. In Europe, for example, so many young people is going to watch this movie, and to bring back young people, it's great. There were like some data coming out. I'm here in Italy now at the moment. It's the people, young people is really enjoying it. So I'm proud that we could be part of such a project.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really cool note, to get people interested in going back to the movies, but also getting them interested in putting watches on their wrist, especially the younger generation. Sounds like an amazing result of this collaboration. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. What is your personal favorite cinema watch that Hamilton has created throughout its history?
Yeah. Well, I have a passion for the Murph. For me, the Murph, it's this emotional part. I have also a special story with my dad, which I lost him some years ago. But this story for me, that the watch that he's giving to the daughter, this emotion, it's a great story. And then what I like in terms of story for the brand is that, as I told you, it was a watch for the movie, and then it became, now it's like the star of our collection. And we will have a newcomer in the second part of the year in this area. So
amazing.
Yes, it's really, for me, this is I would say at the moment, I say at the moment because with Hamilton, we have so many projects. This is my favorite.
Cool. You heard it here first, folks. We have a new release coming on around the Murph. That's great. So my last question, and thank you again for spending time with me today. Beyond cinema, and you mentioned this earlier, Hamilton is expanding its creative partnerships into gaming as well. Can you share any teasers about what people should start thinking and feeling in terms of seeing Hamilton watches inside of their favorite games?
Yeah. Well, we saw it together when I met you. Gaming, it's a fantastic surprise. We are like really enjoying this new pillar for the brand. It's very consistent with the cinema, but it's connecting us with also a different target audience. Resident Evil was incredible. It was great. It was another project that some watches were like gone in 8 minutes on our e-commerce.
Wow.
It's great. Yeah. And so now I cannot tell you too much about the new project coming because there is.
But they are coming.
Yes, there is one coming in October. So
okay, cool.
It's going to be very, very soon. And another one coming out in March 27. So we have 2 appointments. So just to tell, and we are already working on other 27 projects and 28. So it's a long-term story we want to keep with gaming. And we are trying to partnership as much as possible with the game that we now really know and like. So,
cool.
Fil Rouge.
Awesome. That sounds like some great little breadcrumbs of hints to future projects. Well, Francesca, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I know our audience will really appreciate hearing directly from the CEO of Hamilton. And congratulations on the success of the Odyssey watch and the collaboration with Christopher Nolan. We hope to see many more collaborations like that in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. And thank you so much to support the brand.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.